quick recording in anticipation of the inferior conjunction of Venus happening right as Venus changes signs and moves into Cancer. So, as you see here, I'm at the website here, inthesky.org. The inferior conjunction happens Saturday, August 15th at 1:17 MDT. I don't know what MDT is, but 1917 UTC. So that's, I guess MDT is a Mountain Daylight Time. I guess that's what that is. So anyway, it'll be in the middle of the day on Saturday, August 15th. So the inferior solar conjunction, the inferior conjunction, it's kind of, I also remember it as interior because it's when the planet is in between the sun and the Earth. And we can see here on my Solar System Scope app, you see the Earth is right here, Venus is right here, and the sun is right here. Now this is on, in fact, the 15th, around the time that we have the exact inferior conjunction. You can see that Venus is right in between the Earth and the sun. If we go back a couple of days, you will see the motion of Venus. For instance, this was August 1st, and you can see if you draw a line from the middle of the Earth to the middle of Venus, it's not directly in alignment with the sun. So we go a few days forward, and here on the 15th, 8, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, you see there's the inferior conjunction. And of course, in the South Indian chart, it looks exactly like this. And you see the moon has just passed it as well, because we just had that new moon at the end of Cancer in Aslesha Nakshatra. So that moon just passed Venus, and you can see here on the app, if you can see it, it's very small, the moon is here. This new moon just happened where the sun, moon, and Earth, or I should say where the sun and the moon aligned at the same degree relative to where we are on the Earth. So you can see that this conjunction brings Venus is both retrograde and also combust, because when a planet is this close to the sun, it becomes combust. Now there's a lot of combustion right now in the sky. We have Venus combust, Mercury combust, Jupiter is also combust, and of course Venus is retrograde and combust. So you see Mars is still at the edge of combustion there, around 16 degrees. Mars is combust up to 17 degrees. Actually, Mercury is not combust. I made a mistake. But Jupiter is combust, because Jupiter is 6 degrees of Leo, and the sun is 27 of Cancer, so that's like 9 degrees, and Jupiter is combust at 12, so or at 11. And so there's a lot of combustion in the sky, which means what you might call angry energy. The combustion is one of the deep Tadyavashtas, which it's the one called Kopa, or angry and frustrated. So this combustion can be affecting a lot of us. For instance, we may be feeling a bit stressed and tense and irritable. It's funny because Mars is actually moving out of combustion, and it won't be combust but for the next few days or so, or into the next week, because Mars combustion is 17 degrees. But what's important to know is that when Venus is combust and retrograde, you can kind of overlook the combustion because it's so close to the Earth. And combustion is typically when planets are far away from the Earth. So let's look at this and see. When you look at this diagram, you see that Jupiter is almost completely obscured by the sun relative to where we are. Because you see the Earth is here, the sun is here, and Jupiter's on the opposite side of the sun. So if you draw this straight line from the Earth through the sun, you'll see that Jupiter is coming right up to it now. Of course, it's as the Earth is going around the sun. We'll see Jupiter's exact combustion, or his exact conjunction with the sun around the 28th of August, because and at that time he'll be as far away from the Earth as possible. So this is generally what combustion brings. And you can see, for instance, the deepest combustion of Mars is around this time, in the middle of June, or around the middle of June. And so now that we're here, you see Venus was combust in retrograde, but it's inside the orbit. It's in between the orbits of the Earth and the Sun. If you watch Venus here, Venus is going to also become combust and not retrograde next year. You can see at this point Venus is now on the opposite side of the Earth. I'm sorry, opposite side of the Sun from the Earth, and that combustion is very different than the combustion that occurs when we have an inferior conjunction like we're having right now. So even though Venus is combust and we're feeling the, perhaps the purging and the purification of the combustion, it's not as difficult because it's closer to the Earth, because the planet is retrograde. So this is why when a planet is retrograde and combust, which only happens with Mercury and Venus, it's a very purifying time, because combustion in general is quite purifying, because the planet's rays are passing through the sun's rays, and the sun always purifies and illuminates things. But again, it can create some frustration because the energy of that planet, like for instance with Jupiter, which is now combust, is very far away from the Earth. The Earth represents our experience. And so the combust planet that's not retrograde, which again is every combust planet besides Mercury and Venus, they tend to be purified, but they become purified through frustration and purified through maybe acting out and becoming frustrated, for instance, with what those things symbolize. So, for instance, the Jupiter combustion can really show some frustration with our teachings and maybe even our gurus, especially if we're immature and we don't realize that we have to put into practice the teachings of our guru and not blame the guru. Or perhaps we've picked a bad guru and their teachings are bad and they're frustrating us and becoming pure, and we're purifying our teachings by seeing how our teachers are inept. Again, these are always possibilities. If someone has a great guru, like I have a great guru, my guru Amma, but I'm frustrated with my level of spiritual growth, if I'm immature, I'm going to blame Amma, which people do all the time. Or if I'm truly in the light, I'm going to realize that it's because I'm not putting the teachings into effect. Or, like I said, we may find that the teachings themselves and the teachers are actually corrupt, and the frustration of Jupiter being combust will reveal that and purify the Jupiter energy. So again, now we're seeing some purification around Venus, but when it's combust in retrograde, because Venus retrograde has been giving us this introspection, because that's what retrograde planets do, then there's purification through introspection and really evaluating how much respect we give others, how that has come back to us in our life. And now with this inferior conjunction of Venus and the Sun, which is going to culminate on Saturday, August 15th, there's a great opportunity to really, see this with a lot more clarity and realize how in the past we've not honored and respected others as much as we've expected to be honored and appreciated ourselves. And perhaps that purification is painful and difficult, especially if we're going through a lot of emotional upheaval or relationship upheaval. It might not be so difficult. It might be a time of great beauty and promise and sort of purging, especially if you have a powerful Venus in your chart or you've done a lot of the work. This could also be a time of great illumination. It's hard to say for sure because you have to look at each person's individual chart, their natal Venus, their dashas, all that stuff is what shows you the specifics, but these are the parameters that we're dealing with, and I wanted to make this video because we're looking at quite a bit of combustion right now, an important combustion around certain planets that are especially the two great gurus, and that is Jupiter and Venus being combust, one being combust and retrograde in inferior conjunction. And this is also afterward, this is said, Venus going into the underworld, and then she emerges on the other side as the morning star. I'm not really getting into that part of it, but that's also part of it. And then Jupiter also as the great guru, which teaches us how to transcend the world and actually connects us with great wisdom teachings and vidyas like astrology and yoga, and great gurus that teach us about the nature of the universe itself. Venus is the guru, or the teacher of the asuras, or the teacher of our desires, basically. Shows us how to navigate our desires, which brings out the asura, or the demonic quality in us. We all have this potential to be little demons when we want to satisfy our desires. So Venus is the teacher of the asuras, which are the forces of selfishness that we encounter in the world. And so as she passes retrograde and now goes through the fire pit of truth, which is what the sun is, there's a time, or there's an opportunity for great purity. So I hope this is helpful to understand. The other thing to realize is that it is in this nakshatra of Aslesha. This is where the purity is happening. And Aslesha Nakshatra it's in the sign of Cancer, and it's called the entwiner, and it shows where we get entangled and entwined in our story. And especially because Cancer is a sign of purity and what's called sattva, when we're tangled up and entwined in purity, which is not about our selfish desires and the things we want for ourselves, or which includes things like relationships, because relationships, let's say romantic ones, have a quality of ourself in it. They're mutual. But when we become entwined in things that are totally selfless, like the love of children, the love of animals, the love of nature, the love of spirituality and pure teachings, then we get entwined and entangled in the absolute truth. And that nature of Aslesha takes us right to the deeper core mysteries of life. And we really connect with the truth and power of the heart, rather than some emotional roller coaster that we typically get stuck on. So again, these are big, these are big things right now that we're all working on. But just wanted to make this video. You can see this planetary alignment with Jupiter, Venus, both being combust, but Venus inferior conjunction in between the Earth and the Sun, and Jupiter getting close to superior conjunction, which is opposite the Earth. And you also can see where Mars is moving out of combustion, and how he was recently pretty close to, well, he was very combust about a month and a half, 2 months ago. So anyway, share this with others. Thanks for watching.